Yo, people, welcome back to another live stream, second one of the day. And this time we are going to review the 2022 um, 2023 season, Premier League season. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, joining me is Joe. We are waiting on a few others, but how is Joe?
Hello, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to see you. Of course, both our teams had very different seasons. Of course, you guys challenged for the league, and we finished in the bottom half. So very different seasons. Definitely very different seasons. Um, Yet the seasons almost ended on the same note. Very disappointing from both our clubs, but we're not yet to just talk about our clubs. We are going to talk about every club. But before we do that, let's get some comments. Be happy yourself, Hashim. Um, yeah, keep hitting that like button. That would be amazing. Come on, you blues. Yeah. Be a flare. Long time no speak. Um, like Connor. Um, so yeah. Um, but the first thing that we are going to start off is the is St Mary's, um, Southampton. Fools, I think most people predicted them to stay up or just go down. In 18th, I know a few people predicted them to finish 18th. So yeah, guess you can say it was a no. Okay, it was a very disappointing season for them. Um, and it's almost like they just never could start getting on. Outside the season, they had a few good results. Beat Chelsea 2-0, beat City 2-0. You know, got a draw against you. And but other than that, it was a really disappointing season from them. If we look at their record in the table, they had what was their record? I believe what 38 games. It was 6-7 25. 25 losses, seven um, draws, and six wins. So they awful season for them. Um, at the end, what they were relegated by what April, March around there. They were already, you could say, you could have predicted them to go down. Um, but yeah, it's a very disappointing one for Southampton. But your thoughts on Southampton?
Um, I think they've also been quite the worst team in the league by quite a mile. I think they they've just been sort of below average all season. They haven't really had any standout players. Uh, I guess you probably have to say Lavia, but even then he hasn't really been great. Uh, yeah, it's just been a horrendous season for them. I didn't see it coming. I'm pretty sure I'd put them around 60, but yeah, terrible season.
Yeah. Stand-up player for me. It's between Lavia and James Ward-Prowse really. Depends who you are picking. I'm going to go with Lavia just because he is a youngster and he has better resale value. Um, so then James Ward-Prowse, and then a team some people had in a relegation zone, others had to survive. It's Leeds United. Um, and yeah, they they had Jesse Marsh. He brought in lots of Americans. I think most people thought they would do really well. I had them going down in 18, so my prediction for them is pretty spot on. On yeah, where I see I think Vincent's wrong. I just don't think the quality of the players is that good. Simple as that. Um, with Leeds, I don't think they have that quality of players. So yeah, be up money for training. Yeah, we'll get to you in a sec.
Yeah, let me start by
Um,
saying I'm sorry for a bit late. I mean, I had to get some work done and have a shower. Never ever come onto an evening stream with Hannah or anyone else unless you had a shower. Got to be fresh, you see.
no worries. But
Joel, big up to you. How are you, son? Did you dye your hair?
Did I dye my hair?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think I've ever seen you as a brown-haired bloke before. You normally have a lighter shade.
No, but I think maybe it's the lighting in my room. But yeah, how are you?
Yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. Still, pushing it at the gym and doing what I can. It's good fun, but you have to be careful, especially on leg day. Never ever take your knees for granted.
Yeah.
but for me, standout player, I don't think there is really anyone for Leeds. So yeah, but Joel,
I, I, d-
yours.
sorry, Joe. Go ahead. Sorry about that. My apologies.
I think Leeds. They were. I thought they would stay up at one point. I thought they looked decent when they beat Forest 2-1, but they brought Big Sam in, and it was never really going to work. I think he didn't really have players to suit the system. And yeah, they got this sort of got even worse. And yeah, they deserve to go down. And obviously when they lost Rafinha, that was a big miss for them. But yeah, the standout player I probably have to go with. It's hard to do. They didn't really have a standout player. I can't really think of a standout player to be honest.
Yeah, same. And then we'll come before you speak on Leeds Southampton. For you, Annie.
Oh yeah. So you started on Southampton, did you?
Yeah, we started on them.
I think the worst part about Southampton's season was that when they were struggling, even under Hasenhüttl, who I thought had done a really, really good job with them over the past couple of seasons, there was just no sign of things really improving, and the club felt that they had to take a decision in the end. But the biggest problem with that is that the people who they got in afterwards, Nathan Jones and the other guy, Celes, I think, who ended the season, they just couldn't really get a tune out of the guys, and some of them were really, not pulling their weight. In addition, there were quite a few players who weren't exactly justifying their place in the team, but who continued to be picked. I know that Gavin Bazunu was signed with a look to try and make the goalkeeping spot his own, but he made some good saves, but ended up conceding more than a few too many goals. And the thing about a goalkeeper who concedes far too many goals a season is that you have to wonder whether or not he's capable of really, commanding that defense, as it were. So I think we've got Nicardo in the building, so
Yeah.
I can add him to the stream. Good to see you, son.
Yeah, of course he joined yesterday's watch room. Also be up to him. Nick, if you are there,
You hear me?
Yeah, we can
your
hear
thoughts
you,
on-
but
Okay, hold on, give me a second.
no, but listen. I'm just in the middle of my thoughts, but just mute your phone a minute or your device because there's a lot of background noise coming from you. Yeah. So I think eventually, and for a long time, Theo Walcott wasn't really getting too many minutes, and Hassan Hotel, in fact, was pretty much relegating him to be more of a mentor who wouldn't even be on the bench. But later on the season, he started to, with some more games, started to show that he still had a lot of his old talent. And I can never forget how he came back to the Emirates and scored against us. The worst part is, in 3 seasons as a Southampton player, he scored at the Emirates against us twice. So, I mean, the man barely scored over 100 goals in nearly 400 games for us, and then he comes back to the Emirates and proves that he still has it. Team selection for the most part was quite horrible. They were depending a great deal on Ward-Prowse and maybe one or two other players to try and do the jobs for them. There is some quality in that team, particularly when you take a look at the Scottish internationals, Adams and Armstrong. But there was no cohesion in that team, and you could tell that with the results continuing to go horribly wrong, that there was very little chance of them staying up. If you want me to pick a standout player, it probably would have to be, Ward-Prowse, because he was playing almost every game, and he was the one who looked like being the driving force in trying to get something. And Southampton did also have some really some good results. Are you all right, Joe? Yeah. So Southampton did have a few good results, but they were just too few and far between. And obviously, now that they've gone to the Championship, I think they're going to look at getting rid of a few of the players who've been there for too long, try and strengthen the team in some way with some other players who've dropped down to the Championship or who are still in the Championship or who at least have some Premiership experience. As I said, my standout player would be Ward-Prowse, but I will give some special mentions to Romeo Lavia and also Theo Walcott. Some of them, at least in the latter half of the season, they showed that they were, willing to try their hardest to make something happen, and it was just unfortunate that it couldn't really work out for them. So that's my 2 cents on the Saints.
Yeah. Nick, if you are there, yeah, your
Yeah,
thoughts
man.
on Southampton?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You hearing me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, mate.
Yeah. So can you ask your question again?
Your thoughts on Southampton?
Oh, okay. So
Go on. Nick, you there?
you're not hearing me?
No, couldn't hear you there. Try again now.
So you hear me now? You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so yeah, I was saying that my fault and Southampton was like, the number 9 was their biggest problem from August until May. It's goals was hard to come by. Che Adams and the Ghanaian player Solimena, was rotating, but otherwise from Ward-Prowse getting goals from set pieces and stuff like that. Tia Walker chipping, but I think Alcaraz, he was very vital in that last, let's say, final third of the season. He was trying to chip in with assists and goals, but it wasn't enough. But defensive, I think there was a big problem during the whole season for Southampton. They were just leaking goals all over. Kyle Walker-Peters was bumping forward a lot, and there's no real CDM that was naturally would cover for him. Because he has to go forward because they normally play with a right inverted right-sided midfield, so there's no cover for him on the right side. So they're just leaking goals. So people would normally like pin their a guy between the right back and the right center back, just like kind of the steady because they know Walker-Peters will bump forward. But I think they should have spent a few pieces in the transfer window in the January and trying to get real good center backs. But I don't know. It was hard for them to stop from keeping guys from scoring. But other than that, the midfield was one of their biggest strength in that team. as Ward Prowse, Lavia, and I forgot they had another guy that they bought from Rangers. I forgot his name. The Nigerian, what's his name? Anyone remember that Nigerian that they bought from Rangers?
I don't know. Let me check.
Uh, let me see if I can.
Let me check. Oh, Onacho. I don't know how to say his name. Liverpool. On a
Go
Yeah, I don't know,
Aribo.
but I know.
Yeah, those guys was real threat in the midfield. But others from that, the wingers were poor. There's no real natural number nine, and the center backs was just leaking goals. They couldn't mark a real natural number nine that's physical. Someone like Erling Allen, once the ball come in the box, they're always gonna get a header. That's my fault on Southampton. Last season.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um. So yeah. Leeds United money.
Leeds United, that's a good one. They were a team which I thought would be able to stay up by the skin of their teeth, but sadly, um, the issues they had, which affected their previous season, pretty much continued to haunt them. And especially after the sacking of Jesse Marsh, you just wondered, um, do Leeds have enough in the tank? And they certainly had a team of really, really fine players. I don't know if I could necessarily pick a standout for Leeds, but one player I could certainly pick is Wilfried Gnonto, who I think was at the club on loan and certainly showed flashes of his quality and why he is still an Italian international. And I certainly wouldn't mind, having him play for us. He's speedy. He might not be the tallest on the field, but he's exceptionally quick and dynamic. Doesn't get too injured very often, and you can tell that. Even at times, if Saka might lose a little bit of bite, Nyonto will still be snapping at defenders' heels. But with Leeds' problems, they just kept conceding far too many goals. I think their goalkeeper, Ilan Meslier, was making some good saves, but also showing that he lacked some knowledge of the fundamentals of goalkeeping at times. He tried to do a little bit too much. And with the defence also being chopped and changed more often than not, the likes of Luke Ayling, Junior Firpo, and others not really getting regular runs in the team, or else they were getting injured. It was going to be difficult to have that sort of cohesion in the back line. And that sort of proved when they were losing so many games, eventually by far too many goals, that, Gracia, I think, who was in charge of Leeds at the time, was sacked before the end of the season, and Allardyce had to be brought in. And Allardyce, for all his experience and proven ability, was never going to be the miracle worker that Leeds wanted, because they had just, conceded too many goals, lost too many points. So, what angered me, especially about Leeds, was that they never heeded the warning signs from last season when they were able to stay up by the skin of their teeth. And, they didn't learn their lessons, and now they're back in the Championship. I'd like to think that, with the atmosphere they have at Elland Road and how they're going to try and, recoup and regroup, they should be back in the Premiership soon. But remember, when they last got relegated in 2004, it took something like a lifetime for them to come back into the Premiership. So nothing is guaranteed, and they're going to have a lot of work to do to basically rearrange their entire core and just get a side of honest players with maybe one or two specially talented players, and then try and move forward. And this season, as I've said, some of the players they had, the likes of Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, both of them American internationals. Of course, don't forget Brendan Aronson, who was also quite well. Bamford's injury / loss of form didn't really help. And there was some talent in that team and a few good individual performances, but in the end, it was just never going to be enough to stop Leeds from losing too many games and conceding too many goals, and in the end they had to be relegated. So unfortunate, but it is what it is.
That's fair. That's fair. Um, let's go to Joe. Your thoughts on Leicester City?
I think Leicester obviously. Uh, I thought they would be nowhere near relegation this season. I think they have they have quite a good squad on paper. It just seems to never really connect. We all thought, I think most of us thought they were gonna at some point hit it and stay up, but too little, too late. I think the obvious standout was James Madison. I think even though they got relegated, he was still performing most weeks. I think he'll probably get his move to a Big Six club. Uh, yeah, I think they had some other good players. They had Tielemans, he was alright, and I think Jamie Vardy dropped off a lot. Didn't really have uh, proper number 9. I think I do think they'll go shit back up, but yeah, it's quite sad to see Leicester go down, considering they won the league not that long ago. But yeah, do you want to go about Leicester, money?
Yeah, I think Hanno seems to have lost his voice. Yeah, Leicester's case is really tragic because I've enjoyed watching them being in the Premiership, not just for the miracle of a title-winning season under Claudio Ranieri, who also, interestingly enough, has managed to achieve success with Cagliari back in Italy, getting them promoted to Serie A. So, apart from that, I think under Brendan Rodgers, they started to become a quite solid, consistent team, winning the FA Cup and coming so close to qualifying for the Champions League again. And of course, even under Craig Shakespeare, after Ranieri got fired, Leicester were very close to reaching the Champions League semi-final. So they provided us with some wonderful moments. And they're a team, mind you, who really, really, really make it easy for fans of other teams to really love. And for neutrals to absolutely adore them. And this particular season, it was just a shame, really, how Leicester allowed Kasper Schmeichel to leave. I know that a lot of people are going to say that he had to leave because his performances were dipping, but still, as a leader, sometimes, that voice is important. I mean, there were several seasons where, as Arsenal fans, I mean, maybe you might not remember, Joel, because David Seaman was before your time. Near the end of his Arsenal career, he was making a few mistakes and having a few shaky performances. But because of his big personality, there was no way that Arsene Wenger could just drop him. Of course, he played until 2003, and then Wenger decided to sign Jens Lehmann, and that was the end of that. But his replacement, Danny Ward, was quite simply awful in goal. And it was only when Daniel Everson came in and started performing really well that we were actually thinking that maybe Leicester could perform a miracle and stay up, because such was his ability. And you just wonder why the hell was Ward persisted with for so long. And the Fofana issue, I think, really, was a bit of a time bomb, really, because it's it contributed to a lot of disharmony within the team. The treatment of Kagla Soyuncu was another one. The lack might around the role of Jamie Vardy. Would he be a starter? Would he be more of a sub? I mean, of course, at his age, his pace might have diminished. So you obviously want to try and have him as more of a super sub come mentor, if you will, but also provide some faith in some other players, and just the general inconsistency of players like Wilfred Ndidi and Samare. Also, Madison and Tielemans. Madison was probably slightly more consistent. Tielemans, again, was just, at times invisible. And so when you have players who were starring for the team just dropping off the radar and becoming a lot more inconsistent and not really able to get their act together when the team needed it the most, the team in question is asking for trouble. And Rodgers was showing no sign of being able to halt that slide. it's sad for me because I actually rate Rodgers as a manager, and I think he did a more than decent job with Leicester. But the problem is he seems to work in a bit of a cycle. By the third or fourth season, he starts to lose his potency, and that's how it's played out here. And he didn't really seem, sadly, to show a willingness to try to make some perhaps radical decisions to try and, show that he was interested in trying to change something. And in the end, he had to leave, and then Dean Smith, formerly of Aston Villa and Norwich, came in. Smith was never going to succeed with Norwich. I mean, that was lamb to the slaughter. And Leicester provided some moments of hope, but in the end, it was their inconsistency and their lack of focus that really did for them in the end. And I want to see Leicester come back up too. I do believe that they are the best equipped to be able to come back to the Premiership out of these three: Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester. But it will not be easy, and the board are going to have to show some signs that they are more than determined to, really make sure that players who aren't committed to the club leave, and build a team around players like Daniel Everson and maybe a few others. So. Yeah. So Nick, I've just finished mine. I'm going to say that my standout player for Leicester would be a toss-up between James Maddison and Daniel Everson. I'd probably give it to Maddison because he's played more games and scored more goals. I've really enjoyed watching James Justin play, but sadly that poor fella got injured, and that also was a big factor in Leicester's stuttering season. So Nick, we'll now come to you, brother. Let's get your opinions on Leicester City.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. We can hear you.
Go on, Nick. We can hear you. Nick, you there?
You hearing me?
We can now. We couldn't hear you, but we can now.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was saying that, the start of the season for Leicester City, Kasper Schmeichel, when he leave, that I think that was one of the dead wood in the
Oh. Yeah. I think maybe he's got a call or something. So yeah. My thoughts on Leicester City. I think personally Leicester City really underachieved. Um, like I think most people had them saying up even close to top 10, and so yeah, really disappointing from them. Hopefully they can. I think they might go up again in the championship. Yeah, Leicester City for me stand-up player. I'm going to go with. I don't want to say Jamie Ward. James Madison. No, I will actually go with Harvey Barnes. Yeah, go Harvey Barnes. For Leicester City. Stand-up player. I think it's just turmoil at the club. No funds. I signed little to almost no one in the transfer window, and that's what got them down. I saw the season bad, that's why they went down. Success fan. Rockany is talking about Leicester. So yeah. Yeah. Next is Everton. Before we go to Everton, I just wanna quickly sort out this thing. So we'll add you guys back in a sec. Just going to play around with this thing. then okay. So you might see some changes shortly, and then the one. Mm, there we go. Okay. It's back. There we go. Okay. So yeah. Everton. Manny, I'll let you go on this one.
Ooh, Everton. One of those teams that is supposedly too good to go down, and yet a team which quite simply flattered to deceive this season and was saved once again by a certain Mr. Sean Dyche. You couldn't pay them to score goals because Calvert-Lewin was injured and the other strikers between them couldn't hit a horse's backside with a banjo. And they certainly had the defense in the midfield to suggest that they were a fairly solid team, but when you play too defensively in the Premier League, you are asking for trouble. And as an Arsenal fan, I think Joel will agree with me that the fact that we lost to them 1-0 on Dyche's first game with them really was a sign that we had a lot of work to do with our team, and we will look back on that game and several other games and say that cost us quite dearly. But obviously that's another team that's been affected by some issues with the board. And Carlo Ancelotti, who was with Everton and did quite well with them under the circumstances before moving back to Real Madrid, after he left, they had Rafa Benitez. Everything went completely sour. Frank Lampard, no questions asked. I think Lampard did save them from relegation, but last season. But this season, he has. It's a case of once again failing to heed the warnings, and it's another case of the squad being supposedly ill-equipped to handle the Premier League, and it very nearly proved. Most of their goals came from the midfield. I think Everton clearly have more than a few problems that they have to try to deal with, and a few player signings won't necessarily change that, although maybe results could perhaps improve. Under Sean Dyche, I definitely don't see them making a very big rise back up the table, but at least they should be able to do just enough to avoid relegation fears. And it's a shame because a club like Everton, with their history, should be aiming for better. And I think most sane Everton fans will agree that the size of their fans celebrating with players and at Goodison Park after they beat Bournemouth was not a sight really that they should approve of. And if you want to take a look at my standout player, who else but England's number one, Jordan Pickford?
Yeah. I said Everton would get 17, so I'm very happy with myself. In this prediction. Fred Frank, I think he was a massive part of one of the reasons they were in the relegation zone. Of course, again, Sean Dyche saving a relegation team. Everton, again, it's the quality of the players. They don't improve on the squad. Really, anytime they don't improve, the owners are very stingy. Um, so yeah, I don't think they have much hope for Everton, especially next season. I think they might go down. Um, Third time lucky, playing with the relegation zone. So yeah, or third time unlucky, if would say. But yeah, let's go. My standout player for them again, Pickford. He saved Everton so many times. No worries about Itna Carlo. No worries, no worries. Fully understand. But Joe, your thoughts on Everton?
I think they obviously got quite lucky to stay up. I think appointing Sean Dyche was probably the best decision they could have made. I think he's a top manager, good at keeping teams up. Um, I think uh, their standout player for me was, well, the obvious choice is probably Pickford, but I'm going to go with Damari Gray. I think he had a good season, and that great goal he scored against Man City to get to draw at the Etihad was an unbelievable goal. I think without that goal, they probably wouldn't have stayed up. I think uh, I think he's a great player. I think, but next season they do need to what's the word? They need to strengthen in the transfer window. I think then they shouldn't be a club that's competing every season just to try and stay in the league. And it's time for them to push on now and try and get more mid-table, top half. But yeah, they got very lucky, and next season they need to improve because they could go down next season. If they carry on playing like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They need to get better players. Yeah, they
Yeah.
need to get better players. Next is a team in Nottingham Forest. Um, I think out of the three teams that came up, they were one of those teams that people thought would stay up. Um, yeah, I think people thought they were going to stay up really. So yeah, I think people thought Forest would stay out up out of the three. Of course, they signed lots of players. What over 11 players in one window, mad stuff. And at the end of the day, it brought them good fortune. Made them stay up, and I don't think they can complain. Really, for us, well done to them. And be up to them for staying up. Their record, um, 9 wins, 11 draws, and 18 losses. Um, so yeah, again, um, if shout out if Luton, I said in Tyler, of course Luton promoted. Um, if you win all of your own games, you get a few draws at home, almost like Forest. And get a few away games you draw. I reckon they could say up. They're my favorite. Alongside Ben, I reckon they could say up. That's off topic. Let's go to money. Your thoughts on first.
Oh, Forest. You know, you could say their season was a little bit like a pendulum swing. I mean, they started off, winning one or two games, but then losing more than a few, and then winning a few, rising back up, and then going back down. I actually predicted that with the players they bought to, strengthen the team, that they would certainly be a team that would do quite well, and I fancied them to have a top half finish. But I don't know whether it was the injuries or the lack of cohesion or the fact that at times there were some player selections which made me want to really, you know, really shout at Steve Cooper for as a means of saying how can you possibly in good conscience pick these players? And several of these much vaunted players disappointed, but a few of them stood out well, and that is in the end why Forest stayed up. Buying several players, of course, trying to buy Premiership safety. I've heard of teams trying to buy championships and titles, but to buy to buy safety in the league is really taking the cake. But I suppose you have to take a look at some Forest and say, well, they did do what they had to do in order to stay up, and that's pretty much how it proved. And I will definitely go so far to say that do they have the basis of a strong team next season? Well, they've let a few of their players go now, including Dean Henderson, who, quite frankly, I never rated, and I'm sure a lot of Manchester United fans will wholeheartedly agree with me on that. Jesse Lingard, another United name, was he started off with a great deal of promise and fanfare, but ended up becoming a bit of a disappointment. If I had to pick a standout player for the season, it would be Brennan Johnson, who was consistently showing why he was, always one of the first names on the team sheet, and the consistency of the Welshman's performances was quite outstanding in many, many games. I thought Keylor Navas also came in harsh, perhaps, on Wayne Hennessy, but Navas, with all his experience and quality, there was no way you could get him in and not play him, and he made some good saves. Didn't look the best on crosses, but as I said, my standout player would be Brennan Johnson. And I think, as painful as it is for me to say this, Forest are going to have to let some of those players they acquired leave, and then just try and build with a less move forward next season with a less bloated team, and only keep the players they want to play. They're obviously going to need a new goalkeeper because they only have Hennessy, with Navas and Henderson having left. And I don't know if Hennessy will be trusted to be the number one choice, but he is an outstanding deputy and more than capable of doing well when called up. But some players obviously will need to be moved on. Lingard, of course, will be leaving. And Chelsea fans saying they started the season badly but ended the season well. They actually had a really good run in the middle of the season, Chelsea fan, when they were, rising up the table. I think were as high as ninth. I'm not too sure, maybe, and were possibly looking to do quite well. But then, they ended up falling like a stone again. They're going to have to trim their squad and really, build from a trimmed squad next season and try and just develop a better style of play. And will Steve Cooper be the man for the job? He could potentially be one of the first candidates for the sack next season if Forest continue to have a bad start. But hey, they're also a team which is back in the Premiership after a very long gap, and at times, we've enjoyed what they brought to the Premiership. So hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes. Otherwise, they could end up being another Leeds United, another Southampton, another Leicester. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Joe, your thoughts on Forest?
I think they were quite lucky because when after Christmas, after the World Cup, they were terrible. I think they were on a streak of around 10ish games without a win. I believe my dad's a Forest fan, so I did want them to stay up, and they did deserve to stay up in the end. Yeah, they had it's at one point when I looked at their fixtures left, and been maybe about 6 fixtures left. I thought I can't really see them winning any of them. They had quite tough games, Arsenal, Brighton, but with their home form, they went and beat Arsenal, beat who was it, Brighton, and yeah, so I think they need to replicate their home form away from them. If they do that next season, I can see them finishing mid-table, top half. Just away from home, they think they only won one game all season away from home, maybe two. I think if they can improve their away form next season, then I think they'll have a great season. And yeah, obviously this season they need to find their squad, their best 11. It took them a while. I think near the end he sort of found his best 11. He sort of consistently played the same team. With Awani, he started hitting it late season, which is probably one of the main reasons they stayed up. So yeah, I think the best player was probably like either Awani or Gibbs White.
That's fair. a team again nobody expected to stay up. Bournemouth Football Club. Um, yeah, amazing achievement for them to stay up. Um, and I just think it's a cohesion and the fans getting behind them. They got good backing. And yeah, they look like it's going somewhere. The tough challenge is yet to come. Of course, next season is to again stay up again. So yeah, um, that's me on Bournemouth. Joe, your thoughts on them?
I think uh, Bournemouth, they sort of, I thought they were finished off bottom. I thought they were down all before the season started. But they obviously sacked Scott Parker and brought in Gary O'Neill, and I think he's very successful because they ended up going on a good run of form, eventually staying up. I think it's that, I don't think they really had a standout player. All their players sort of worked well as a team near the end and pulled out the results. But yeah, I don't think I don't think there's really a standout player in there, to be honest. But yeah, good season for them. They need to try and push on next season and avoid the relegation battle, but it will be difficult.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, for me, against some player, I'm going to say Dominic Solanke. I believe money has just gone out, so I'll wait on him to come back. Um, so yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'd like to say my piece if I don't mind. Um, Obviously, Bournemouth staying up is really good news for me because I've done work this season with a Bournemouth fan channel called Up the Cherries in All Departments. Big up to Craig Beasley, Sam Harrison, and Matthew Harrison, by the way. And they struck me as a team with a great deal of spirit and endeavour. And what really impressed me about how they stayed up was the recovery they made from the 9-0 shellacking they got at Anfield, which led, of course, to Scott Parker getting sacked and Gary O'Neill taking his place. O'Neill was not really rated very highly by a section of Bournemouth fans, and even now, there are some fans who practically do not want him to continue in the job, despite the fact that with having done his bit to keep them up, he's earned a new contract. I'm not too sure necessarily if the longer contract was the right thing, but it's maybe an example of how if you don't panic and keep faith with your manager, maybe it could lead to getting the results you want. But I suppose clubs these days are governed by fear more than anything else. And the way O'Neill was able to stick to his job and do what he needed to do was quite magnificent. And the players also responded to him well because he was able to command respect from them and really get the best out of them. So, yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for the season and the way it went panned out. And I'm prepared to really applaud him and applaud the team. And I'm really happy that they will be in the league next season. Next season, I hope they learn their lessons well. I see them finishing comfortably mid-table, in the bottom half, that is. I don't think they'll necessarily push for a top half finish or even in Europe, but of course, stranger things have happened. But yeah, they do have the makings of a decent team going forward. Obviously, they'll have to say goodbye to a few players. Jefferson Lerma leaving to move to Crystal Palace is a huge kick in the teeth for them because the fans have taken him to their hearts. But it was expected that he could possibly have a move back to Italy. So to stay in the Premiership with Crystal Palace, it's a bit tough to take. And if I were a Cherries fan, I wouldn't exactly be quite happy. Of course, Junior Stanislas is also leaving after about 10 years at the club, and there will be a few others who could be expected to move on in the coming days or weeks. But as long as they have a good start next season, they should do fine. And my standout player of the season would probably be Philip Billing, who has been very consistent and very, you know, I mean, he's one who would provide a great deal from midfield. He'd also come into attack and score a few goals. He was one of those really consistent players. But another honourable mention could be Neto. His first season after so long as a bona fide first choice goalkeeper, he came in after the 9-0 defeat and looked quite consistent. Did make more than a few mistakes, but also made more great saves and really proved why he deserved to be first choice. And I think the decision to make him captain near the end of the season proved to be a bit of a masterstroke. So, yeah, I'm hopeful for Bournemouth, and I think next season they should do fine and consolidate themselves under Gary O'Neill, or if not O'Neill, maybe another manager.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair assessment on them. Joe. Oh yeah, you already went. Sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember.
yeah. Next is the mighty Irons. Of course, they won the Europa Conference League. I, I would, yeah, I think that changes their season. Almost, I think there were higher hopes for them in the league, but getting 15th, you qualify automatically for Europa League, and yeah, you could see them in the Champions League. If they do go on to win the Europa League, almost like Gary O'Neill and the Bournemouth fans. David Moyes split some heads in the um, West Ham fan base,
Wi-Fi issues, Hannah?
okay, am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, yeah, so but yeah, like I said, I think Moyes is job is solidified. And look, he should be doing well next summer, next season, and you never know. Maybe we could see them in the Champions League in a few seasons if they go on to win Europa League. So yeah, um, yeah, Manny shaking his head. Um, but we'll get to him. But yeah, for me, Samuel play got to be sorry, not, but it should be declined Rice. Um, so yeah, of course, also are messing up the deal. City Pro going to get him now. Now, by the way, on also on Rice, Osman said it, it's done. Oh, it's a record transfer, but everything like that. Um, I told you guys like it's not done, and you had what two and what almost 2 weeks. Um, they had a week before the final, and then a week after after the Conference League final to prepare the bid, to talk with him, to talk with West Ham about out the transfer fee and everything. And then when that bid came out and reports came out that they've fallen under the West Ham valuation, it's almost like um, okay, but what did you spend the last 2 weeks doing? Like you knew West Ham wants 100 million, so why just don't go and pay 100 million straight up, get them, and finish the job? It's simple to me, but maybe I'm thinking FIFA career mode. I don't know. But money, you shake your head, Gary O'Neill. On about Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth and West Ham winning a trophy. Your thoughts?
Um, Listen, I said that Gary O'Neill did a good job at Bournemouth, and I'm happy that he's staying. But the only reason why I was shaking my head was because West Ham have no chance of reaching the Champions League. I'm sorry. Too inconsistent. And under Moyes, the football that they played has won a trophy, but there will come a time, of course, when West Ham fans rather will want a better style of football and a better, you know, uh, a style of play which will, keep fans interested. And I don't know if Moyes will necessarily be that person. It's good that they've won the Conference League because at least now, um, after all of his hard work with Everton, the disappointments at Manchester United, and the struggles at other clubs, he can finally call himself a European champion. And it's not just any European trophy; it's the same trophy that a certain Jose Mourinho won. But if they really want to be a stronger, more consistent team, and especially if Declan Rice is, about to leave, then they are going to have to really do a lot of player recruitment. And I think if they can hold on to Jared Bowen, they've got a bona fide superstar. But they're certainly going to have to try to shore things up at the back. Um, I think especially Lucas Fabianski, ex-Arsenal goalkeeper, getting on in age. I really don't think Alphonse Areola is the answer either. I think he was very shaky in the Conference League final and very fortunate to have ended up on the winning side. But there is going to be a lot of player recruitment needed, a lot of and maybe some more youngsters brought through from their academy, which is what West Ham seem to do quite well, by the way, and have done well over the years. Um, Again, they need to shape up their midfield and their defence. As far as their forward line is concerned, I know they signed Danny Ings from Aston Villa, but he never really was able to get too much of a look in. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of a role he plays next season, what type of football they play. And, of course, West Ham were in the Europa League last season, but the season before this season, but they lost in the semi-finals. So nothing is, of course, guaranteed when it comes to European club football. And that is something that we all can agree on. So it's high time that West Ham start to focus a lot more on the bread and butter, which is the Premiership. And if they can at least bring about a little bit more consistency, then maybe it'll help them. And they will also need to try and improve their style of football. It could very well be that some other manager might come in and maybe really improve the team even further. I'm not going to suggest Unai Emery because his style of play can be a little bit defensive at times, but that fellow does win you trophies, believe you me. And if I had to pick a standout player of the season, it would actually, mind you, be a toss-up between Declan Rice and Jared Bowen. I think Bowen has really come of age this season, and he certainly looks like a star for the future. I will never forget, of course, the goal he scored to equalise against us at the London Stadium. That, for me, was down to poor goalkeeping as well from Aaron Ramsdale, who simply wasn't positionally ready or steady enough for that. And also the defense was just caught unawares by that free kick. And Bowen, of course, came up trumps with that brilliant winner in the final. What more can you ask? So West Ham do have a bit of work to do. They should avoid relegation fairly comfortably enough, but if they're not careful, then they could find that their European adventures might end up being another distraction. So they're going to have to really decide if they want to have the added, cushion of playing in Europe and enjoying themselves in Europe, or whether they just might see themselves as better off improving themselves and becoming more consistent in the Premiership.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Before we move on to John, just going through some comments. I fly be up south of Declan Rice. To us, I don't want him. Fab said also will bid again soon. Yeah, true. Um, West Ham will never win Europa League. You never know. You never know. Rice and Bowen for me. Fair, fair, fair. Um, so yeah, Joel.
I think West Ham obviously had a very underwhelming season in the league than what we all expected. I think obviously with the team they have, we all, and the seasons they've had previous, I think we all probably expect them to come at least top half, maybe the table. But yeah, they ended up. They were never really properly in a relegation battle. Well, they were near the start, but they sort of drifted away at the end. But obviously, winning the Conference League was massive for them. Um, I think Declan Rice was a massive part towards that. So I'd probably have to say the best player at West Ham by a country mile. I think he he is elite. I think whether he joins Man City, Bayern Munich, Arsenal, I don't know. I think they will struggle without him next season. Uh, that's if they don't properly replace him. But it's going to be quite hard to replace a player like Declan Rice in one chance window. It's but after the Conference League win next season, they need to push on, and they should be nowhere near relegation battle next season. I think they need to try and push on and finish top half. But yeah, I'm happy they won the Conference League, but in the league they weren't good enough. They need to improve next season.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Next team is a team that made no signings and finished 13th. And it's a team that just seems to get it done. And now to say almost like Everton, they just get it done. They have the know-how, and they just keep saying up. Again, player for me that stood out is Ruben Neves, as always. So yeah, underwhelming season for. I think they achieved expectation really. Um, Most people thought it would get in that table. So yeah, um, money.
Wolves. Certainly not the ferocious hunters you'd expect of them, but a team which also looked very desperately in relegation trouble at one point, but then somehow managed to turn things around, relying, of course, on a core group of players, the likes of Ruben Neves, Adama Traore, Jose Sarr, their goalkeeper, and a few others. I think João Moutinho obviously had a somewhat limited role this season and wasn't really at his best, and that cost him his spot in Portugal's squad for the World Cup. He's now, of course, left the club, and I think it'll be interesting to see what career move he makes. Maybe a return to Portugal is on the cards. That Portuguese core might possibly be slowly but surely broken up. And I don't even know if Lopetegui is going to stay as Wolves manager for next season. We will have to see about that. He's done a decent job in making sure they kept themselves up after Bruno Lage got fired. But again, as you've said, Hannah, they found a way to overcome the struggle and finish a little bit higher up. Eked out some good wins against the likes of Liverpool and others. And if I had to pick a standout player, it probably would be, Neves, although I do like Adama Traore and the strength that he has added to the midfield. I think their Portuguese keeper, Jose Sarr, has been more than decent. I know Daniel Bentley later on the season started to play a few games, but also, special mention to Hwang Hee-chan, the Korean, who, of course, was a standout for his nation at the World Cup and also put in more than a few decent performances. They're going to also have to try to make maybe 2 or 3 more purchases for next season so that they can solidify their position in the Premiership. They've been now in the top division for the past few seasons, and I do not think that they will want to run the risk of being relegated again, because many teams will testify to the fact that it's as hard as it is to it's very easy to get relegated, but very, very hard to come back up. So Wolves have looked I think we could definitely say the best phase they've had was the recovery they made to finish as high as they did, because at one point they were also looking down for the count. But credit to Julien Lopetegui and what he did, the players who helped him, and we'll see how far they go next season. They should finish in a comfortable mid-table position, but they will need to make sure that they really avoid making the mistakes they made.
Yeah, agree. Joe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think Wolves, they're a weird one, really. I think most people would have predicted them to finish around like mid to 13th, 14th. I don't. But where did they finish in the end? Was it like around that? It was around there, I think. Yeah, I think next season if they can push on and try and get into top 10, I think if they've got a decent squad, not got a great squad, just a decent squad, I think. Yeah, their stand-up players probably been. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what their stand-up players been, to be honest. But, yeah, I'm not sure.
That's fine. So yeah. But next is my club, Chelsea. We finished 12th. Where do we even start? So, Tuchel and what? Tuchel and Bowley basically fell out. That was down to the disaster that happened, and then we appointed Potter. He wasn't the right man for the job. Boa wanted him out at the time of the options, and then we appointed Frank Lampard, Fat Frank, and yeah, that's right. We made, I believe, 10 or just under 10 signings in the January transfer window. That didn't help. So, yeah, just a chaotic season for Chelsea. Anyone want to add something else on it?
I really don't know what more I can say. It was a case at several points of the season that anything and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I will. It's very easy to say that Tuchel's sacking was something that had to happen, but just as I said that maybe you shouldn't govern on fear. I think maybe they should have kept Tuchel, because how do you sack a man with his record and the way and of course what he was able to achieve with the club, and he was just getting the players he wanted. He had just gotten Aubameyang integrated, and who's to say that things wouldn't have been even better? But with more and more poor performances, everything was just going into turmoil. And then you had Potter and Lampard just sailing the ship through some dreadful waters and not doing a very good job. And I think Chelsea players were glad to see the end of the season. How do I pick a player of the season? Very hard to say. Which one player would I say has been consistently impressive and who hasn't really put a foot wrong? Thiago Silva, one of the oldest players in the team, still proving his importance. It's a toss-up perhaps between him and Mateo Kovacic, but I think Silva's performances have been a lot more impressive.
Fair. Joe, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think Chelsea, obviously, the season's been alright for them. I think next season they'll probably be back around top four. I mean, it's going to be competitive next season to top four, but that's a different topic. I think I don't really know what's gone wrong. I think having 3 different managers in the same season and players not really gelling in yet, I think that's probably been the main reason. I think the player. There's you got some good players, but they don't seem to really be working well together as a team. I think next season they'll hit it, but uh, yeah, maybe the best player I think definitely been Thiago Silva. I think comfortably he's been easily the stand-up player for Chelsea this season. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to throw in Silva and Anto Fernandez in there. So yeah. Yeah, of course, I said it to Chelsea according to um one of the sources. Where is it? According to to what's his name? Florian Plettenberg. Like, it is done basically. I don't know if that's true. Might be true. But Joe, you got up off soon, so um, what we will do for you is out of 10, just give a number for this team's season's Palace.
What out of 10? I'll just give.
Like
Uh,
10 being very good and 1 being very bad.
all right. Palace are going 5.
Okay, Fulham,
I'll go 7.
Brentford,
Uh, 7.
Spurs,
3.
Villa,
Um, 7.
Brighton,
8.
Liverpool,
5.
Newcastle,
8.
United,
7.
Arsenal,
8.5.
and then City.
Oh, it's good 10. They're on the treble.
Fair, fair enough. Where can people find you?
Joel_Deezer if you're on Instagram. That's all I have right now.
Yeah, thank you for joining, mate, and yeah, we'll see you again,
No worries.
hopefully soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye, Manny.
Bye. Okay, what I'm just going to do. And there's a move to. So yeah. Palace. For me, again, we're expected to finish around 10th. And yeah, I think they would be happy with their season, finishing above Chelsea, just missing around top 10. A little bit disappointing, but yeah. Money, you. Muted.
For me, it's a sort of a mixed season because after the success of last season, when they, reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup under Patrick Vieira and really, punched above their weight and really made a name for themselves, things started to not go quite well. There was a part of me that believes that Vieira's sacking was very harsh because, again, they were defensively very solid, but just not scoring enough goals. But again, you need to have your players scoring goals. And then I don't know what it is, but after Roy Hodgson came back, the likes of Zaha and Eze started to really turn it on. It kind of makes you wonder whether they down tools for Vieira. But listen, at the end of the day, it's sour grapes. Hodgson deserves credit for, getting the team playing some better football again and making sure that they would avoid, um, you know, wouldn't have any more relegation worries. Yeah, a decent season. I wouldn't rate it highly. I'd say it would be around about a 5 or a 6. I'd be generous and say a 6, but for the team they had, they probably would have been expected to challenge for a finish like 8th or maybe even 7th, maybe secure a spot in Europe via the Conference League. And I think under Vieira, the players just weren't able to get their act together, and under Hodgson, things changed for the better. Is what it is. You can't really do too much about it. But yeah, so decent season for them. Standout player for me? Very hard to say. You know what? I'm going to go sort of away from the grain and say that someone like Michael Elise was a big part of Palace's recovery and certainly looked promising this season as well. Eberechi Eze also has had a good season. Zaha, for me, has blown a little bit too hot and cold. So it was a toss-up between Eze and Michael Elise. So I hope that makes it clearer for you.
Yeah. Zero out of 10 for me. I'm going to say 6. I reckon 6 is good. On the Caicedo, just think, I think they've lost interest because they're focusing on Rice and they've realized Rice is going to take all the money, but I don't think they get Rice. To be fair,
If Arsenal end up getting neither Rice or Caicedo and end up with Havertz as one of their marquee signings, I am really going to lose it. Let me tell you that.
but I have a very nice prediction for you. My prediction is you won't get Rice or Caicedo, and because of that, Arsenal will offer Jack a new contract and he will stay.
Oh, heck to the no.
Imagine
If that happens, I'm really going to lose it. Thank you very much indeed, but Bay Danke.
But yeah, Fulham overachievers this season. Many people had them either 19th or 20th. And incredible season for Fulham. Just I think the cohesion getting rid of Scott Parker was a great one. Appointing Silva as the manager, incredible. I'm going to give the season a 9.5. Only reason is because if Marco Silva didn't get that red card and who was it, Mitrovic, they could have finished higher. They could have possibly taken that 7th spot from Villa. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Fulham?
I'm going to disagree. I think it wasn't just the red card for Silva and Mitrovic and Willian. It was the fact that somewhere in the middle of the season, they started to show a bit of inconsistency in their performances. I'll tell you what, I had Fulham getting relegated too, so they certainly deserve a lot of respect and credit for, really proving me wrong. But I think the fact that they fell away near the end of the season meant that it was another case of what could potentially have been, especially when you consider the recruitments they made. I'd give their season, though, a creditable 7.5 because, if they had maintained their consistency, as you say, they would definitely have been in the European mix. But, it is what it is. I think there is something for which they can build next season. And they just need to make sure that they develop some more consistency to their play. And if they do, then we could see an even higher finish for them next season. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Next is Brentford again. I didn't have them, so I had them around my table. That's fair play to Brentford again. I would say also overachieved this season.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to rate this season a 10 out of 10. Can't be any less. So yeah.
I think 10 out of 10 would be really, really, be a bit too generous. I suppose, you know what? I suppose you have a point there. The only team to do the double over Manchester City this season, and they've been solid enough without needing to be spectacular. And even after losing Ivan Toney, they still managed to score some goals. Hats off to a certain Mr. Mbuemo. And yeah, I would definitely say that they have had a really, really good season, but it is always a season that can be improved. So I'm going to give them a 9. They're doing what they can to establish themselves as a Premier League team, and they've managed to succeed. But I think a lot needs to be. They still have to do a little bit more. And if they lose David Raya, then that could very well be a hammer blow for them. So we'll see what happens. My standout player for them, I'm going to go with Mbuemo. Not so much Toney, but Mbuemo has been another person who has flown under the radar because of a certain Mr. Toney. So hopefully that makes everything crystal clear for you.
Yeah. But from a team that overachieved to a team that underachieved in Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for them. It's really tough for them. Tottenham, they at Conte, I think they should have gotten rid of Conte sooner than later. But I say that, but they turned out to play better football under Conte. They look better under Conte than they did towards the end of the season. Yeah, finishes eighth. Very underwhelming. Most people had them in their top 4 or top 5. And yeah, it's very, very disappointing. And Tottenham are now left with more questions than answers, especially with Ange Postecoglou and Daniel Levy. Reportedly, Daniel Levy offered, I don't know how true it is, 50 million for both as a package to get both Barnes and Madison for 50 million. If that is true, then that's very stupid. But yeah, for me, Tottenham, gotta say 3 out of 10. So yeah,
It's the same
your thoughts?
rating that Joel gave them, and I think I can't really disagree with that. It has been a very underwhelming season. A great deal of promise in when they were in the Champions League, but they never really made the most of it. And I think they're going to have to look back on the season and say that many of their players underachieved. Lloris, in my opinion, had a dreadful season. Bad enough that he was a part of the French team that lost the World Cup final. But in addition, he was making far too many errors, looking absolutely shaky. And at times, the defence looked a lot more solid with Fraser Forster in goal than him. And muddled team selections, crazy formations, several players not really standing up to be counted. I think I was really impressed with the likes of Perisic and Kulusevski, but the problem is maybe the consistency let them down. Although if you see the way Perisic plays for Croatia, you just wonder why he wasn't able to quite turn it on for Tottenham. And maybe the reason is because he wanted to preserve his energy for his national team. I'm not sure, but we will see. A team also definitely in need of clear outs here and there. And there will be some players leaving the club, definitely. I actually think Ange Postecoglou was a fine acquisition of a manager, but I do believe that he should never, ever have left Celtic with the team once again in the group stages of the Champions League and hoping to maybe go a little bit better. And he's gone to a club which are a complete and utter mess, actually. And the state of their club right now, as you would say, this skokkend, utterly shocking for our non-Afrikaan speaking friends. But I suppose when you hit rock bottom, the way they did, the only way you can go is up, and they're going to have a lot of expectations next season, and a lot of hope that Ange will, get things right and get them right immediately. And standout player, who else? England's captain, Harry Kane. At least you can count on him to get you some goals.
Yeah, definitely. Next is Aston Villa. Now I think many people had them in the what in the at the mid table, like myself, cause of Steven Gerrard. But it turns out that when Una Emery comes to your club, you can get European football. Maybe Arsenal should have learned that, but unfortunately they didn't learn that lesson. So yeah, they ended with 2 years without European football. It got Villa in half a season, basically European football. It took over them just before the 2023 when they were in 16th, and he got them to 7th. Great, absolutely great work by Unai Emery. For me, Villa, I think you have to give them at least a 9 out of 10. Your thoughts?
If you're talking about the season in entirety, then obviously the beginning of the first part of that season before Gerrard got sacked was an absolute letdown. The team were underperforming, and there was no positivity on the horizon. But again, we could definitely say that the second part of the season could be a 9, and the reason why I say 9 is because if you take a look at the margin between 7th and 6th, the difference between the Conference League and the Europa League, I think Villa can definitely look back at a few games under Emery and say, if the manager hadn't have been so defensive, or if the team hadn't have been forced to play such a defensive style of football, maybe the team would have finished higher. And update from the Nations League final: Spain have just taken a 2-1 lead with 2.5 minutes to go. I believe it's the number 20, Joselu, who came on as a substitute for Alvaro Morata, who's put them ahead. I think that might be, I don't know if it's been disallowed for offside, though. The celebrations might be short-lived. It will be checked for offside, but we will see that. But back to Villa. Having said what I've said, though, if you take a look at the season they've had before Unai Emery came in, if you were told them that they would finish the season still in with a shout of European football and eventually getting it, albeit via the Conference League, and knowing that it could have been even better, I think any Aston Villa fan worth their salt would have bitten off your hand. So I'd give their season an 8, really, because there's still some way they can improve. But what's really impressive about Emery is that he only made one purchase, bringing in Alex Moreno at left back, who went on to become a really important player for Villa. And I absolutely rate this fella. Classical left back, overlapping left back, who really does a good job with that in that position. Of course, him getting injured near the end of the season means that Villa will be in the market for 2 left backs. They're going to say goodbye to Luca Digne as well. And it could very well be that Emerick Laporte and Kieran Tierney are very high on their list. So Emery will, get the club doing well. He will receive the backing at Aston Villa that he never got at Arsenal. And I'm really excited to see how well they do. And a bit of a spoiler alert for you, Hanno. You asked me to come up with a team of the season. I've got 2 Aston Villa players in my team of the season.
No, I don't think I got one, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a
And
moment.
my standout player would probably be John McGinn, who took the captain, who was given the captaincy ahead of Tyrone Mings, and responded magnificently with several terrific, consistent performances. Um, some desperate Spanish defending. The goal was given, so we're into the last 10 seconds plus stoppages. Ansu Fati has come on as a sub now. And yeah, I'm excited to see how Villa do next season. And they will definitely be very active in the transfer market. Knowing Emery as well as I do, he will make sure he gets nothing but quality players, and the board will definitely back him. So exciting times for the Villains.
Yeah, Brighton again overachieved. I think most people had them either in seventh, eighth, ninth in that position, maybe 10th. Not European, not sixth there. Yeah, Italy. I know lots of people that were rooting for Italy. So yeah. But Brighton. Of course they lost Graham Potter. They lost basically everyone. Just basically robbed Brighton of literally everyone. The Zerbi comes in,
Oh,
transformed the
come on.
team.
It was just Potter and Cucurella, really.
Now, of course, with Potter, he's all coaching staff, and we got
Ah,
some
yes.
of the backroom staff of two. So yeah, and a few of the directors, I think. So yeah, um, the Zebby comes in, he transforms them and makes them even better. So yeah, but yeah, um, uh, I don't know what to say, but yeah, I think now, welcome Dan or chums. Um, but yeah, I think Brighton have achieved. I'm going to give the season a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, here I'll agree with you because securing a spot in the Europa League for a club like them is definitely not small potatoes. It is absolutely, really, top quality steak. And sorry to any vegetarians in the chat, but brilliant, brilliant, brilliant sequence of performances under the Zerbi, and what really struck me was how consistent they've been this season. Of course, they did contrive to lose 5-1 to an Everton team fighting relegation at home. That was an utterly dreadful performance. But what really struck me was how De Zerbi said, "You will see the real Brighton when they come out to when they go to the Emirates to play Arsenal." And I don't need reminding of what happened. I know what happened, and it was a sickening display by Arsenal. But Brighton really deserved their win, and they don't seem to have too many weaknesses. They can lose a few of their players to bigger clubs and still find a way to really consolidate their team. Of course, with Alexis McAllister moving to Liverpool, would have loved him at Arsenal, by the way. It will be interesting to see how Brighton recover from that. But knowing them and knowing the way they've their scouting works and how the manager works, they will find a way to really make sure they take advantage of it. And my standout player would probably be the Japanese international Mitoma. Very consistent. What you see is what you get from him. It was good to see Evan Ferguson, the Irishman, coming on near the end of the season and doing quite well. But yeah, Matoma for me would be my standout player. I think Jason Steele in the Brighton goal really surprised me with his performances. Roberto Sanchez, of course, was ended up being Brighton's cup goalkeeper as they made the semi-finals, only to lose to United in the penalty shootout. But yeah, brilliant season for the Albion, and Seagulls are flying high.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant season for them. Next up is Liverpool, a team that underachieved. I think most people had them in the top three. And then it's just a thing of injuries and then players not being available. Not being players not performing. You saw Virgil van Dijk. Yeah, the really, really poor season. So I think Liverpool, they won't be happy. They would be glad they get European football. They almost made Champions League. So
Just a minute, Hannah.
yeah, no worries. For me, I'm going to agree with you. Just fan of five, five for Liverpool. Um, yeah, best player for me that stood up for them. Um, I don't think there really is any. Uh, or big news from also forever. Um, Rumors I am Eurovision have projected us second bid of 90 million plus Adams. Wouldn't be surprised if Man City offers him 90 million plus Calvin Phillips. And then they accept that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just going to check that quickly. Let me just check that. Um,
Sorry about that.
hmm,
And full time, of course, in Esheda, Spain 2, Italy 1. So it'll be a Spain Croatia Nations League final. And talking about Liverpool, I'm going to give their season a 6 out of 10. Good home performances, diabolical away performances. So inconsistent, it was scary. A lot of fears over the performances of the likes of Salah and the front three after Mane's departure for Bayern Munich. And one can only hope that next season, without the likes of James Milner and Bobby Firmino and others who've left the club, um, they should be able to recover. But Liverpool also have the ability to really sustain themselves. I think after this season, they should be able to, you know, recover and lend a better challenge next season. And next season, obviously, as I mentioned, they've got Alexis McAllister who's joined them. Good replacement for James Milner, I think, who, of course, near the end of his Liverpool career has been used more as a defender anyway. But they should, do quite well. Several in a season where several players have been plagued by inconsistency, it's very hard to pick a standout player. And I think Virgil van Dijk has had a very, very poor season by his standards. But again, it's hard to pick a player who's really shone this season. Even Allison, as good as he was in the Premiership, has made quite a few errors as well in the Champions League. I don't know if I can really pick a standout player, to be honest. I suppose I'd have to go for Jordan Henderson,
I'm going
captain.
for
Fantastic.
Edison. So yeah, I forgot
Huh?
about him. I forgot about Edison, so I'm going for him.
Allison.
Yeah, Allison.
Okay, for me it'll be Henderson, but your choice, I guess.
Also, I'm seeing on Twitter is that the second bit has been or is close to being accepted. I don't know, and that the second bit has been submitted. That's the news I'm catching. I don't know where you have seen. Maybe it's the right.
Yeah, it looks likely that City will offer West Ham 90 million plus Calvin Phillips, as Craig Malloy has said. Arsenal forever. Thanks a lot for the comment there, mate. And as you said, if we don't sign Declan Rice, where do we go from here? Shy Havertz isn't the answer. What can I say?
Um, yeah, seems like unless you got something for me there. But next is Newcastle United. Massively overachieved. I think most people had them um, around eighth, seventh, sixth. Nobody had them top four. So yeah, Very, very good signing for them. Um, 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 so so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Newcastle season. How can you not give it a 10 out of 10? Cup
yeah,
final, Champions League qualification. The Magpies are flying even higher. And
yeah,
the only problem is, as the Pet Shop Boys once famously sang, the higher you fly, the further you can sometimes fall. And so a lot will depend on what they do in the transfer market and how they, go about their business. I've heard that Matt Longstaff and Kieran Clark will be leaving Newcastle United, and there may be one or two other players who could possibly join them. I don't see the likes of Joe Willock and a few others lasting long enough in that team, but we will see whatever happens with that. And but they do have a very strong squad. Certainly look as though they will go a long way. I think the experiment playing with Dan Burn at left back has been solid, but Burn isn't really going to be the answer for them going forward, which is why they're very eager to snag Kieran Tierney. And Kieran Trippier obviously doing really well for them. In the mid, they've often gone for a 4-3-3 with the likes of Willock, Sean Longstaff, and Joe Linton, I think, being pretty much the main three involved. And then up front, Callum Wilson, Alan Saint-Maximin, Isak. They do look to have a really, really strong team that could do well in the Premiership next season. Whether or not they will go far in the Champions League will remain to be seen. I think they will be unseeded, given that they haven't been in that competition for a very long time. About 20 years-ish, I would say, or maybe round about that period. But, or it could be shorter. But they're a team that will definitely, only really improve under Eddie Howe and with the backing of the Saudis. So I give their season a 10 out of 10. Standout player? I suppose I'd probably go for Kieran Trippier. There's a part of me that wouldn't mind picking Nick Pope, but he's also shown on occasions that his footwork isn't really the best, although he is a fine shot stopper. And I think Trippier has been exceptionally consistent in the way he's driven the team forward, and also contributed with his free kick mastery. Yeah, Trippier would be my standout player for the season.
yeah. I agree on what you said there. For me, yeah, again, 10 out of 10. For me, I'm going to say Bruno Guimaraes. So yeah,
Guimaraes, that's good.
so yeah, I think is their one. So yeah, next is Manchester United again. They overachieved slightly because I think most people out there outside the Europa League, they got a trophy. Yeah, very
I'd give their
very
season.
season for United.
I'd say maybe an 8. Still
Yeah,
plenty of room for improvement, but great first season under Eric Ten Hag, given the circumstances. He got Marcus Rashford playing better again. Injuries have cost them at inopportune moments. Next season, they can only improve. I'll give them an 8. And standout player? Standout player, very hard to say.
Casemiro.
A toss-up between Casemiro and Rashford. I'd go for I'd go for Rashford. Last season, of course, huh? Yeah. People are going to say that we've had some really good improvement, but improvement doesn't equal success. Early exits from the cup competitions and a monumental bottling of top position. I suppose I'd give our season maybe an 8 or a 7.5 because we still have a lot of improvement needed. And a standout player for me, Gabriel Martinelli.
Fair enough. For me, I reckon also they had a good season, great season. Depth of that runs them. I'm going for a 7 out of 10. I think they could have prioritized some of the competition more. And then Man City, what is they asked to say then? 10 out of 10. They completed the treble. They um, they won every.
I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what. Prior to the World Cup, they were absolutely diabolical at times.
Yeah, they were. I think after March, till March even they were they weren't good. After March they were good. When Pep figured out what to do for Ireland. So yeah, I think that's everything. You want to add something on City?
Yeah, like I said, it was a question of them doing what they needed to do. They were the hare, the tortoise who beat us, the hare. And, it was as if this season was in a way perhaps destined for them to win the Champions League and the FA Cup, the treble. And people are going to crib all they want about, financial fair play and how they bought their way to the title. But at the end of the day, you've got to win the games on the field, and that's pretty much all that matters. So, but they were absolutely awful at times in the first half of the season and were nowhere near as good as they were in the second half. But again, sometimes when it comes to Spain, they deserve credit for, doing what they did. I'll give their season an 8, really, because still there's a lot of room for improvements, and they will need to do a lot more. And I'm going to get to this question right now from Craig. How many points do I see Arsenal getting from our first 6 league games next season? We should be picking up 15 or 16 points. Let me just take a look at that for you, mate, and find out what our fixture list is, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't really been able to, get to that. But yeah, this is Arsenal's official account on Twitter, and Premier League fixtures are in fact here. I believe we start off our season with the home game against Nottingham Forest. Revenge could very well be on the agenda. There's no excuse why we shouldn't win that that one. Yeah, we start off with a game against Nottingham Forest at home. That should be a win for us. Crystal Palace away from home. We're traveling to Selhurst Park again early in the season, just like we did this season. I don't know if we'll play Roy Hodgson again. The likes of Zaha might not be at Palace. I should expect a tight win over there. Fulham at home. That should also be a win, because I really don't see Fulham doing enough to, really frighten us. That's the first 3 games. And then you said, first 6 league games, right? So after Fulham, who's next? In September, we've got Manchester United at home. That is a game where, if we're lucky, we will secure a draw. I know we beat them 3-2, but that was a game where if Erik ten Hag had been tactically spot on like he was at Old Trafford, they could have denied us 3 points that day and maybe even nicked a win. I don't know. So I'll write this off as a draw. Everton away from home. We have no excuse for not being able to win. And yet, against Sean Dyche, if Mikel Arteta makes the same mistakes again, things could go pear-shaped. But I'm going to be positive and say we should beat an Everton team that is in dire need of rebuilding. and Tottenham Hotspur at home, we've got to win. So I'm going for, as you said, we should be picking up 15 or 16 points. And let me put it this way: even if we fail in getting Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo, we do have Kai Havertz confirmed. I think the same team, we still pretty much have more or less the same team, which started the season a lot better. And of course, with Trossard we do have some more options. So there's no excuse why we can't pick points from those games. But Spurs are also going to be looking to rebuild quite a bit. And under Postecoglou, I think he's going to want to make sure his team hit the ground running. So even the win against Tottenham at home might not be guaranteed. We could potentially end up with only 14 points out of 18. So it will be interesting to see. The positive person, if I can be positive, I could say that we should get 16 points from 18 games, but it's a jammy league, the Premiership, at times, and all we can do is just wait and watch. But thanks for your question, mate. Hope you will.
Yeah. Well, go on to the quick team of the season. Then we'll wrap up.
So I actually had the honor of picking a team of the season for one stream. I want to shout out Graham Jones and his channel, Daddy and the Don Sports. Big up to them. I believe they reached a subscriber landmark. I don't quite remember what it was, and hope they get many more. I went for a 4-4-2, classic 4-4-2. In goal, Emiliano Martinez. I know that people are going to say that he wasn't quite consistent as the other goalkeepers, but of course, you cannot look beyond the world champion. But in addition, since the World Cup, he has literally gone from strength to strength, improved his abilities as a ball-playing goalkeeper, and was a very, very big part in Aston Villa going from being threatened with relegation to European qualification. Some of the saves he's made have been amazing in their simplicity. You take a look at the Ramsdale save he made against Newcastle St James's Park from Fabian Schär and saying, oh, what an amazing save that was. For heaven's sake, he pushed it back in Schär's direction. He was just lucky it went over his head. But a proper goalkeeper with great positional sense and anticipation would move across and grab that. And that's exactly what Emi Martinez would do. A brilliant save as well from Leeds volley is one save that really comes to mind. I just think he's the best all-round goalkeeper in the league, at least marginally better than the likes of Alisson and company. So he has to be in the team for me. He might not have kept as many clean sheets, but you can be denied a clean sheet by fortuitous, non-fortuitous circumstances. It doesn't make you a poor goalkeeper in any way. So he gets in. At right back, I've gone with Kyle Walker. Consistently the best. Mucked around a little bit by Guardiola because of his own system-based eccentricities, but there's no looking past his quality. Left back, Alex Moreno from Aston Villa. As I've said, quality overlapping, great defensive player too, and certainly someone who has a really good future in the Premiership, but sadly his injury near the end of the season means that it might be difficult for him going forward. Centre-backs. Rafael Varane of Manchester United and William Saliba of Arsenal. Saliba gets in there, no questions asked. And Varane has looked very solid. Of course, whenever he's not been injured, he's been a really good, a really consistent performer. And I think his decision to retire from international football with France means that we will see some more good performances from him in the seasons ahead. Now, the four-man midfield. Right wing, you cannot look beyond Kevin De Bruyne. He gets in, no questions asked. Central midfielder 1, Casemiro of Manchester United. He earns his place over there. Went off the boil a bit near the end of the season with a few silly fouls and getting himself sent off whenever you don't want to. But I suppose as a central midfielder, it's a price you pay. I mean, we had Patrick Vieira for crying out loud, and the other central midfielder, Ilkay Gundogan, Captain Fantastic for Manchester City. No questions asked. And on the left wing, Gabriel Martinelli. Our most consistent player, my standout player of the season. He gets in there. And my two forwards, Marcus Rashford and Erling Haaland. I just couldn't pick Harry Kane. It's the Arsenal fan in me, you see.
No, that's fair. So I've gone with a 4-2-1-3 or a 4-3-3, depending on the shape. But I've gone with Alisson and goal. Um, Up there with the most clean sheets. Basically saved Liverpool from going even down more. Trippier, um, outstanding right back for Newcastle. Stones, Botman, I think, was a really good part of that Newcastle defense that turned out to be second best or third best defense. Then Nathan Ake, left back, he absolutely done incredible for City. Then Casemiro and Rodri as my double pivot, and then KDB as my cam. And then I've gone with an also player in Trossard on the left, then Haaland up top and Kane on the right. Or
Wow.
you could that with you could make it Trossard and Trossard move go in with KDB and make it a four in midfield. Then have Haaland and Kane up top. So yeah, but
Very interesting. Very interesting selection indeed. Um, yeah, I mean, with two strikers, you can't play a 4-2-3-1, but that's quite interesting formation there. I do like it.
so yeah, but yeah, we're
And
going
then, of
to end it
course,
there.
of course, the best part about this is that you could easily switch Kevin De Bruyne to the right and Trossard to the left. That would be a perfect 4-4-2.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to end here. Big up everyone that joined. Big up for Joel, Manny, big up, and also forever. Big up Flair. Big up everyone that joined. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow we will join you for the Ashes watch along. I'll decide tomorrow morning if I'm going to do a whole day. I don't think so. I might just do session one and then the first session. But I will let you guys know. So yeah, be up everyone, and I will see you in a bit. Peace out.